Saudi Arabia's bold outreach to Iran amid rising Middle East tensions signals a dramatic shift in diplomacy, balancing economic ambitions, regional stability, and global partnerships. As Riyadh navigates delicate relations with Israel, the U.S., and China, its calculated restraint could reshape alliances and redefine the future of regional power. In the shifting geopolitics of the Middle East in 2026, Saudi Arabia's engagement with its longtime rival Iran has become one of the region's most closely watched developments. After years of hostility, broken diplomatic ties, proxy confrontations, and deep mistrust, Riyadh now finds itself at a strategic crossroads, balancing new security challenges, economic ambitions, global alliances, and a wider regional conflict involving Iran, the United States, and Israel. The cautious diplomacy being pursued by Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman is drawing intense scrutiny, not only in capitals across the Middle East, but also in Western seats of power and global markets. For decades, Saudi Arabia and Iran stood on opposite sides of nearly every major regional issue. Their rivalry shaped developments from Yemen to Lebanon, Syria to Iraq, exerting powerful influences on political alignments, militia battles, and strategic partnerships across the Gulf and beyond. The Riyadh Ion ship reached some of its lowest points in 2016 when diplomatic tensions escalated sharply after protesters in Tehran stormed and set fire to the Saudi embassy, an incident emblematic of the bitter mistrust between the Sunni-led kingdom and the Shiite-led republic. That rupture entrenched a cycle of proxy confrontations, whether in Yemen's devastating civil war, tensions in Bahrain and eastern Saudi Arabia, or Iran's support for armed groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis. By the early 2020s, both capitals began to feel the strategic limits of persistent confrontation. Prolonged instability sapped economic prospects, disrupted energy markets, and strained resources as leaderships wrestled with internal reform and external threats. For Saudi Arabia, a centerpiece of this recalibration was its Vision 2030 initiative, a sweeping blueprint to transform its economy, diversify away from oil dependence, and open society to global investment and innovation. This ambitious project rests on predictable security conditions and sustainable regional dynamics. Unpredictability, conflict, and confrontation pose direct risks to both foreign investment and domestic confidence. Against this backdrop, Riyadh and Tehran pursued a cautious détente that culminated in a diplomatic breakthrough in March 2023 when they agreed to restore diplomatic relations through talks brokered by China. Envoys from both countries signed an agreement in Beijing to reestablish relations at the ambassadorial level and reopen embassies after a 7-year break. That accord, welcomed by many regional states, marked a significant reversal from years of mutual hostility and suggested a pragmatic recognition by both capitals that prolonged rivalry was neither sustainable nor in their national interests. Analysts also noted the growing influence of China as a diplomatic broker in a region long dominated by Western powers, underscoring a shifting geopolitical environment since that agreement, Saudi official. LS have repeatedly emphasized stability and regional de-escalation, projecting a message that Riyadh is interested in reducing direct confrontation and refocusing on economic transformation and long-term investment goals. This stance emerged not just as rhetoric, but as national strategy, maintaining open trade corridors, ensuring energy infrastructure could operate without disruption, and preventing further escalation in neighboring waters such as the Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant share of global energy supplies transits. Despite these overtures, the broader regional environment has darkened. In early 2026, coordinated airstrikes by the United States and Israel against Iranian targets triggered retaliation by Iran, including missile and drone strikes targeting Saudi territory. These developments raise the specter of an extended regional war with global implications for energy security, trade flows, and international alliances. Amid these pressures, Saudi authorities condemned the attacks while consistently emphasizing restraint. In official statements, Riyadh rejected claims that it had allowed its territory or airspace to be used to support offensive operations against Iran, portraying such narratives as misleading. Officials clarified the kingdom did not allow the use of its airspace to support offensive military operations, adding that there are parties trying to give a misleading image of Saudi Arabia's position for suspicious reasons, further demonstrating this. Cautious approach, a May 2026 phone call between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian reinforced the kingdom's commitment to dialogue and respect for sovereignty. During that conversation, the Crown Prince emphasized Saudi Arabia respects Iran's sovereignty and rejects the use of Saudi territory for actions against Iran, while affirming support for resolving disputes through discussions that enhance regional security. Concurrently, Saudi Arabia has publicly supported international mediation efforts, including those led by Pakistan, aimed at reaching a ceasefire and preventing further escalation between Iran and the United States. At the heart of the regional anxiety is Iran's growing influence and military capacity. Israeli security officials have long voiced concerns about Tehran's missile capabilities, regional partnerships, and the potential for Iranian proxies to expand their reach. These concerns have intensified during recent confrontations, complicating an already delicate balance of power. Any indication that Saudi Arabia might prioritize diplomacy with Iran over stronger regional pressure is immediately viewed as a strategic concern in Tel Aviv, prompting Israeli policymakers to monitor statements from Riyadh closely. A fundamental point of difference has emerged between Riyadh and Tel Aviv. For years, normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel was viewed as a potential diplomatic breakthrough capable of reshaping regional alliances. The United States has strongly supported this possibility, seeing Saudi-Israeli cooperation as a stabilizing factor in a volatile region. But Saudi Arabia has consistently maintained that any formal normalization process must be tied to tangible progress on Palestinian statehood and long-term regional stability. That stance remains central to Saudi foreign policy, ensuring that domestic legitimacy and regional messaging are aligned, while signaling to Israel and the United States that any agreement would require substantive progress, not just symbolic gestures. Economic priorities remain equally central to Saudi policy. Vision 2030, the kingdom's ambitious modernization program, requires predictable conditions for foreign investment, infrastructure development, and technological growth. Disruptions caused by regional conflict, particularly in critical sea lanes or energy corridors, directly threaten the kingdom's goals. Riyadh's restraint is therefore not just a diplomatic posture, but a strategic necessity designed to protect economic reforms, ensure energy exports remain uninterrupted, and safeguard domestic stability. The role of China has also grown in parallel with these developments. Beijing's mediation of Saudi-Iran relations, combined with deepening economic and energy partnerships with Gulf states, demonstrates that global influence in the Middle East is no longer exclusively Western-led. Saudi Arabia now balances relationships with the United States, China, and regional partners simultaneously, reflecting a desire to maintain strategic independence while protecting national interests. The kingdom's foreign policy demonstrates calculated flexibility, preserving room to maneuver between competing geopolitical pressures. This balancing act extends to the United States as well. While Washington continues to encourage regional coordination among its partners, it also recognizes that Saudi decisions increasingly reflect long-term economy. See in security calculations tied to domestic transformation, Riyadh's leadership considers foreign relations through a prism that blends national defense, economic modernization, and strategic autonomy. This approach allows Saudi Arabia to engage diplomatically with Iran, maintain ties with Western powers, and manage relationships across the Arab world without being locked into a single rigid geopolitical camp. Within Israel, these shifts have produced both concern and strategic recalibration. Israeli policymakers, who have traditionally relied on predictable alliances, now must assess the implications of Saudi diplomacy with Iran and its broader balancing strategy. This includes the potential impact on intelligence sharing, regional coordination, energy security, and future negotiations regarding normalization. Uncertainty itself has become a factor that influences defense planning and policy formulation, demonstrating that diplomacy and strategic calculations are tightly interwoven. Despite these pressures, Saudi Arabia's priorities remain consistent. The kingdom continues to emphasize restraint, supports mediation efforts, and engages in communication channels designed to reduce risk of escalation. These measures ensure that domestic reforms, infrastructure projects, and economic initiatives under Vision 2030 can proceed while the kingdom avoids being pulled into wider regional confrontation. This cautious yet proactive posture underscores Riyadh's recognition that stability, diplomacy, and economic security are intertwined, and that regional influence can be exerted through negotiation as much as through force. Even as conflicts flare elsewhere, Saudi Arabia's leadership projects a vision of the kingdom as a central, stabilizing actor in the Middle East. By pursuing dialogue with Iran, maintaining conditional engagement with Israel, protecting economic and energy assets, and navigating the rising influence of China alongside traditional U.S. partnerships, Riyadh seeks to define a new model of strategic independence. Its actions demonstrate a willingness to engage across ideological divides, pursue diplomacy with historical adversaries, and protect its domestic transformation agenda, all while managing the uncertainties of a turbulent regional environment. Saudi Arabia's approach in 2026 illustrates that modern Middle Eastern power is not defined solely by military strength. Economic vision, diplomatic engagement, strategic flexibility, and careful balancing of global relationships have become equally critical. In this era of renewed regional conflict, Riyadh's strategy shows that influence, stability, and security can be shaped not just by confrontation, but by the careful management of alliances, negotiation, and long-term planning. Through a combination of measured diplomacy, calculated restraint, and strategic vision, Saudi Arabia is navigating a Middle East in flux, protecting its national interests while attempting to shape the broader regional landscape. The kingdom's emphasis on dialogue with Iran, conditional engagement with Israel, and engagement with global powers underscores a pragmatic recognition that stability, development, and sovereignty are interdependent. In an unpredictable environment, Saudi Arabia's balancing act, informed by official statements and concrete actions, represents a pivotal effort to secure its future while influencing the trajectory of the region as a whole.